Letter 8. A Christmas Meditation. The Dera, January 1st, 1933. Beloved friends in America. Christmas morning on the banks of the Beas River in India, a solitary American sits in meditation. Tides of memories and emotions sweep over him. Far away in the homeland this morning, millions gather about their firesides in joyful reunion to celebrate the birth of a baby 19 1/3 centuries ago. Why do they do it? And why is this American so far from his home this morning, here in a strange land? Who can penetrate the veil and solve the mysteries that constitute the phenomena of human life? Only the Master. Wise men set out for Bethlehem. Here we sit by the slow-rolling waters of an Indian river. India, the changeless India, the eternal mother. From her mountains and plains, almost 2,000 years ago, went 3 wise men, masters, setting out on the long overland journey to an obscure village in a remote province of the Roman Empire. An event was about to transpire to which they alone had full knowledge. Over long and weary stretches of desert, of vale and mountain roads, the camels beat their steady tread westward. Guided by the inner light, whose star burned brighter as they approached their destination, the wise men came at last to a little Essene inn dug into the hillside in Bethlehem. The masters know the significance of all events. That is one reason they are called wise men. They know the value, also the past and the future of every soul coming into the world. As these wise men halted in the silent watches of the night on the plains of Bethlehem and looked down upon the little Judean village, composed mostly of shepherds and farmers, they knew that an illuminated soul was about to take human birth there, and their gladness and immeasurable love drew down from heaven a great chorus who startled the sleepy shepherds with their holy song. Thus heralded came the Son of Mary. And now, after the lapse of centuries, the sweet story is told in awed whispers about the Christmas firesides, and the holy melody lingers in the hearts of men. A gloomy Christmas day. But this disciple sits alone on the banks of the river, far from his native land, and about him there is no Christmas celebration. The day itself is dreary. Clouds overhang the sky, and chill winds blow. The dear master of the Dera is in Agra today, and only the Persian wheel at the well goes on forever, as it has done for ages. Even Parasram, the servant boy, usually so good, is in an ugly mood today because he could not have his own way this morning. Christmas morning on the banks of the Beas. Here there will be no turkey dinner today, no Christmas frolic tonight, no gathering of the kiddies to inspect armloads of toys. Far away in her California home is a little one, so mighty like a rose, in the sweet bloom of her childhood, so beautiful that it seems as if she had just stepped down out of paradise, bringing the light of that world with her. Perhaps with dawning intuition she sits today, waits and wonders. May the holy angels guard her all through the night. A tear drops by the river. And there, by the banks of the Beas River, a lone student sits and wonders. But the unheeding river flows on, as it has done for 500,000 years and more. What cares it for Christmas babies? What cares it for saints and holy shrines? What cares it for 100 million souls ground down beneath the wheel? Only time and worked out karma and the love of God shall bring release. This far wanderer may be excused if he drops a silent tear today upon the banks of the unheeding river. Yet why the tear? It would be hard to say. Does he wish today that he was back in America? No, 1,000 times no. His emotions may be partly from thoughts of loved ones so far away, partly from pity for those who, like himself, have stumbled so long through the darkness, and partly for pure joy that he at last has found the way to the light. 50 years of searching up and down the earth, restless, drifting, listening, hoping vaguely for he knew not what. But at last the Master, who knows and loves, took his hand like a gracious father and led him out of the wilderness. Over land and sea he almost dragged the wanderer, until at last he rested at the holy feet of his Redeemer. And strangely enough, that Redeemer in his human form dwells here on the banks of the Beas River. The light of this stupendous truth is dazzling to the eyes of perception. How can it be so? Yet the pure white music of it, the living joy of it, fills the soul of the wanderer as he sits today upon the banks of the unheeding river. When the world seemed but a prison house of confusion and pain, the blessed Master came across the seas and touched my soul. He came to give freedom. He came in the stillness of the night while I watched and prayed. Suddenly he came, and the light of 1,000 suns shone about him, though my dull eyes could not see the glory of the light. He called me, and my soul heard the divine music of his voice. No fetters of earth can hold me now. They all drop away like wax melting in white fires. He bade me come to him on the banks of the Beas, where he could teach me the wisdom of the holy path, teach me and train me, and watch over me as a father, feed me on the bread of life, and help me to grow clean and strong and fearless, fit at last to stand before the radiant Lord. No more wandering in strange bypaths, no more groping in the wilderness, but a steady climbing with him up to the heights. And when the awakened soul at last touches the pure white sea, this divine drop, grown all luminous itself, shall be absorbed in that shining sea. And so, after all, this Christmas morning may mean more to the lone American on the banks of the Beas than it does to millions of other Americans at their turkey dinners in the homeland. Jesus and the Jews. But happy as this disciple is today at the feet of a living Master, he can never forget nor fail to appreciate the dear Son of Mary, even though the story of his life comes down to us dimmed by the intervening centuries. Like that of all spiritual masters, his life was a sweet mystery, and its main value to us now is the love it brought into the world. In that long ago, Jesus came to the Jews as a light to guide their erring ways. They sadly needed him. For a long time, fancying themselves the specially chosen people of God, yet falling into diverse errors and sins, now ascendant and now subject, they at last pitifully sat and nursed their woes under the galling yoke of Rome. But they fondly imagined that their Messiah would come some day to their rescue and restore to them their freedom. Thus they waited for the coming Messiah. Jesus came as a light to both Jews and Gentiles, and they both joined in crucifying him. Being full of enmity toward each other, nothing in the world could have induced the Jews and Gentiles to join hands in any constructive activity for the good of mankind, but they readily joined in the murder of the best man in all the Roman Empire. Such is the venomous quality of religious prejudice. His own great heart strained with grief as he stood upon Mount Olivet and looked upon the city of David. Knowing their many weaknesses, and being full of pity, he exclaimed, "O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how oft would I have gathered thy children together, as a hen gathers her chickens under her wings, and ye would not." Jesus himself was born to Jewish parents. His father, as some sources believe, was associated with the Essene Brotherhood. He inherited the restless mind, the fiery impulse, and the passionate love of the Semite, as well as spiritual insight and lofty idealism. To this heritage he added the training in scientific yoga of Mother India, for he spent some time in India. Returning from India, fired by an amazing love, he came to his own people like the flash of a meteor. He taught them and healed their diseases in vast multitudes, and then he passed to higher regions, leaving them dazzled at his light, but not comprehending it. So it has always been. Only those who know his inner life love him, and to them, even to this day, his memory is like the odour of sweet incense. He is worthy of all the love that Christmas can bring him. But one thing the American people have not yet learned, which is vastly more important than the memories of all past ages, that is the fact that more than one Christ has come into the world, and some of them are still in the body carrying on their great work. The same need and the same divine love that brought one has brought a long succession of them. The same great Father who sent one noble son to Bethlehem has sent a great number of them to many lands and in many ages. In fact, the world is never without at least one of them. Other Christs are born. Only a few days ago, this disciple visited the birthplace of another of these great souls, the world's light-bearers and redeemers. In a little village called Gurman in Punjab, was born in the year 1839 a child endowed with spiritual possibilities of a transcendent character. In the humble quarters of a family of farmers in this little village, Baba Jemal Singh was born. No angel chorus announced his coming, and yet he was born to a destiny among the greatest of the sons of men. He became a disciple of the great Swamiji, and later rose to real sainthood himself. He laid the foundations of this work in Punjab. While the star of that saint burned brightly in the Indian sky, another star of the first magnitude arose over the land of 5 waters. Footnote. Literally, the word Punjab means 5 waters. End of footnote. In 1858, another babe was born here who has become another Christ, and whose holy mission has already engirdled the earth itself with streams of light. It is he at whose holy feet this disciple is now permitted to sit. His very name, Sawan, meaning showers, points to the character of his work. As the summer rains bring new life to the dry land, so this great saint showers the water of life upon all who come to him. Other saviours also have come and gone in India and in other lands. They came, and their lights burned with intense brilliancy for a time, and then disappeared. For this dark planet was not their home, but the perfume of their holy lives has lingered like the odour of sweet incense, like frankincense and myrrh. Many a soul, long ages under the wheel, found release by the strong hand of these masters, and vast numbers more would have escaped if only they had heeded the voice of these redeemers. If this disciple ever spends Christmas in America again, he will surely spend it, not in eating a big turkey dinner, but in trying to show his people that they may have access to a living Christ, abiding yet in the body, and abundantly able to save unto the uttermost all who seek shelter at his holy feet. Sitting at his feet. Some days ago, this disciple sat at the feet of the beloved Master, on the very edge of the bank of this unheeding river. He had gone there to see to the unloading of 3 barges full of reeds for use in the Dera. The bringing of these reeds was purely a labour of love, no one receiving any cash pay, and yet scores of men and even some women engaged in the work eagerly. The reeds were carried in bundles on their heads up the slopes to the Dera from the steep river banks. The Master sat in a chair, and this disciple sat on the ground at his feet. To sit there was better than to sit in royal chairs. Through all of India and to the ends of the earth, there is no place so sacred as at the feet of a living saint. He who is privileged to sit there is blessed above all others. To look into the eyes of divine love, to listen to his voice full of the resonance of the highest spiritual culture, to feel in the depths of one's own soul the warm glow of his holy light. That is something never to be forgotten when once experienced. How precious the moments! After a pilgrimage through the long and weary years, life after life, slowly emerging from the slime and the darkness of sin and ignorance, at last to sit at the feet of a living saint, and to know that never again shall the soul descend into the depths, but shall mount with the Master up to the regions of light. This is a joy that no Christmas dinner can give, and for this holy hour one may well travel all the highways of earth and sail the 7 seas. Illustrating the extreme value of the privilege described above, a story is told of Lord Shiva. It is said that, while walking through the jungle one day, he came upon a certain spot and, stopping, began to weep. When asked why he wept, he said, 10,000 years ago, a true saint sat down upon this sacred spot, and I was not here to see him and worship at his holy feet. Now, after 7 months with this dear Master, the American disciple feels that even the disciple himself no longer exists as a separate individual. Besides the Master, there is no one else. There is nothing. The Master is all there is. Sunset and moonrise on the Beas. We began the day on the banks of the Beas River. Let us end it there. But the scene has changed. The cheerless grey of the morning has given place to a great burst of light from out of a gorgeously painted sky. The moon also has just risen. Stand here by me on the banks of this unheeding river for a few minutes, and let me show you a most beautiful sight. For after all, the river is kind, in spite of its apparent indifference to our emotions. Everyone here feels that at all times the Dera is a sacred spot. It has been so from the time that Baba Jemal Singh, that beloved saint who was guru to our own master, first hung his string of dry loaves of bread upon a tree and sat down to meditate by the banks of this river. Day and night he sat, and when hunger impelled him, he would soften a portion of a loaf in water and eat it, returning at once to his devotions. It is said here that this great master foresaw this as a splendid centre of spiritual activity, extending its influence to the ends of the earth. At that time, 41 years ago, there was but little here, except vast wastes of land and unwatered silt. Now, irrigated green fields make the whole countryside like a garden. This beautiful little Dera, now rapidly growing to be a real town, becomes more and more the 69th place of public pilgrimage in India. This is due to the life and work of our own great master. In addition to its sacred associations, the place has its natural attractions, not the least among which are its river and its beautiful sunsets. The Dera in sunset glory. Just now, the sun is lowering his brilliant disk behind the buildings of the Dera. Orange and deep red and purple light up the western sky. And those gorgeous colours, somewhat softened in tone, are reflected in the river. Tones and shades of colours are rapidly changing in both sky and river. Like a silver band, a quarter of a mile wide, the river stretches away to the south, visible for 2 or 3 miles, also winding its way into the north, visible for 8 or 10 miles in that direction. The west bank, on which we stand, rises from 50 to 100 feet above water, and is cut by many deep ravines where the rains, during millennia of time, have washed the soil into the river. On the banks of a ravine, some 300 yards away, sit 2 sadhus, ascetics, in meditation. No, at this moment they are chanting a sacred hymn. On the north side of the Dera can be heard the incessant click of the Persian wheel as it brings up water from a 60-foot well, to the slow and monotonous tread of the oxen. Across the river to the east, long levels of yellow sandbars are streaked with patches of dark brown earth. Beyond them are faintly visible numerous fields of yellow and grey in the gathering shadows. And far away in the east, a greenish-grey line of trees meets the deep blue sky. Hung in that deep blue sky is the clear full moon, now a half-hour above the horizon. Its silvery face is reflected in the river by a long path of white and sparkling ripples, so gentle that their motion is barely perceptible. The flow of the river is slow, so it rolls along with just enough movement to break the glassy smoothness of its deep and silent waters. The violet in the sky is now reflected from the river, forming a most unique border to the silver sheen of the reflected moon. The western sky gradually changes to pale gold, while to the south the orange merges into red and purple, and that into deep blue and steel grey. The light fades rapidly. The glistening waters of the river in the north now stand out above the yellow sands, leaving them but a faint blur. The timberline on the eastern horizon has become a black border against the steel grey of the sky. Now the last sandbar disappears. Only the river and the moon and the shadowy earth remain, and the silence of the night. Finally, the buildings of the Dera are sharply outlined against the western sky. The eye of the observer searches for one bright electric light that usually shines at night like a mariner's beacon above the master's house. But tonight that light is absent. The master is not there. Only the light of his love and goodness remains with us. At last, only a silvery streak marks the waters of the Beas River, merging into its black shorelines. The pale afterglow of sunset tells us that another day has passed. Mounting the eastern sky, the Queen of the Night is now supreme. This disciple then asked the man in the moon if he had any message from his country and people so far away on the opposite side of the earth. But the man in the moon replied, with a twinkle in his eye, "Never mind your country and people. It is time you were getting back to your budgeon. So we must bid you good night, and God be with you till we meet again. Your loving fellow disciple, Julian P. Johnson."